95.4, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.
To INC Radio Florida. I am one of your hosts this morning, Brother Robert Tapalas, here on a very special broadcast celebrating the 10-year anniversary of INC Radio International. We are super excited to be able to talk to you this morning and share with you all of the history and the growth of this wonderful program that we get to be a part of. Actually, we are the daughter, the son, the siblings of all of the INC Radio International family across the globe. And we're going to be covering all of that along with the history of INC Radio International today. But of course, before we do that, today is Saturday, October 26th. It's about 9:30 in the morning here on the East Coast of the United States down here in Florida. And it's a sunny day, actually. We call this here in Florida, we call this faux fall, where it starts off at about 50 to 60 degrees in the morning, kind of fools you. And then all of a sudden it like winds up to 85. So I don't know.
On that. We're going to call it flow fall because
flow fall. I like that.
Right?
That's
it's specific
flow fall. Like Florida. It is. It's a very well. That's why everybody comes down here, right? Because in a couple of months, when it's like 8 degrees up there for our friends up in the north, and we're going to be in the 70s. Then it's not so bad. But we enjoy being able to wear some of our clothing that's a little bit, let's say, cooler weather worn. That's the kind of stuff.
I can't help but hold like a smile on my face as you say this, because you're also being pretty careful. Because I have to say,
I'm trying. I don't want to offend our friends up north. I don't want them to think like, look at those Floridians showing off their warm weather again.
Yes,
so that's
sweaters and it's like 70 degrees. Our scarves.
Oh, I know. So of course, and of course, I was remiss in of course introducing my wonderful co-host, Sister Joy. There, I want to give a shout out to Sister Joy there in Orlando, Florida, one of the happiest places on earth, unless you're sitting on the I-4 in traffic. But it's definitely an enjoyable place there in Orlando, Florida. Today, as I said, we're going to be talking about INC Radio International celebrating its 10th year anniversary. And we are so fortunate this morning that we also have a special secret guest that I stole, who's joining us, who's been there from the beginning of INC Radio. That's Brother Manley, our executive producer, none other than Brother Manley. Good morning. Good morning, Brother Manley. How are you?
Good morning, Brother Robert, Sister Joy, and to everyone that's tuning in to INC Radio right now. Not only in YouTube and for those that are tuning in around the world.
Oh man, that is so. We're so lucky, and folks, if you're joining us and don't realize, Brother Manley's on the West Coast of the United States, which means it's literally like 6:30 in the morning over there for him. So we appreciate the sacrifice. We're sending you some breakfast treats to get you going this morning, Brother Manley. But this morning's show, he's ready. He's ready. He's already there. And we're going to be talking about INC Radio International's growth. But of course, before you could start talking about growth, you've got to be able to talk about where it came from. And I wanted to start, and of course, Brother Manley, we're super excited to have you here because you've got all that history. You are literally the archive for us of INC Radio International, right? What do they call that in Washington? The Smithsonian? That makes it too old.
Yeah, sometimes I do feel like a Smithsonian anyway.
But, can you tell us a little bit about where and when INC Radio International actually launched? And Kuya Tech, if you wouldn't mind, please putting us in grid so this way we can all be there on camera while we're talking about it. But so, Brother Manley, it started, obviously, this is the 10th year anniversary. So can you wind us back to when it actually started?
Okay. So, for those of you that are tuned in and a brief history of INC Radio. Basically, INC Radio, from the very beginning, it started in the Philippines. February 10, 1968. And we just celebrated the 55th anniversary this year. And then, of course, all those years, it ran in the Philippines. And then the church administration decided, oh, let's bring it out of the Philippines and let's launch it, as we call it, abroad. Let's launch it outside the Philippines. So when the church administration approved the project of having INC Radio outside the Philippines, it was actually launched October 25, 2014. It during the first International Evangelical Mission on air and online. Basically, the International Evangelical Mission on air and online is very similar to what we're witnessing now, or what we're able to watch when you go to the Evangelical Mission of YouTube. But the only difference at that time was that there's a host, and there's also a live preaching from a minister, and that's when we launched INC Radio. At that time, it was INC Radio USA, and transitioned to INC Radio International, because it actually expanded from not just here in the United States, it expanded outside of the United States.
And can I bring out the let's take note of the equipment from 10 years ago. So even though from 10 years ago, you can see that they're already using sort of this top of the line audio and the mixer and all of these things, it's one of the things that is, I guess, a difference between traditional radio, right? Traditional radio and INC radio, which is it's a combination, right, Brother Manley, of visual and audio.
Yes, and it's I'm glad that you mentioned that, Brother Robert, because at that time, it was just, of course, it was just audio. But with the new technology of being in YouTube, then it became visual radio, as Brother Angela had mentioned. When we first started, it's like a small TV. And Brother Eduardo Manalo, thank you very much for advance happy birthday, by the way, po. When he approved it, his vision was visual radio. At that time, there wasn't that many visual radio, and so he had this vision of having a visual radio, and that's what that was the main project at that time of IC Radio, to have it as a visual radio. So hence, that's why we have it in YouTube. We have a camera and things like that. But it's funny that you mentioned that the traditional equipments that we use at that time. And thank you, by the way, to the technical crew of IC Media that provided the suggestions and equipments. And those equipments that you see there, it was put together by the INC Media crew. See, at that time, I didn't know what a mixer was, the microphone.
Oh my! Because now you're like literally my version of technical support, or you're my AI when I need to know like what piece of equipment I need to buy. So
Yeah, 'cause I didn't know any of those things that you see there. It was funny because so I was like, so what does this do, and where does this go?
that's when you get in trouble, because you start messing with buttons, right? And then
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It was a day crash course, because behind that there's actually a mixer where we had to control the audio, um, and the of course, logging in, tuning into YouTube, and things like that. And at that time, the minister that was with me, um, that I co-host with, was Brother Stephen Wood, who is now in the Philippines. He was the very first minister that was assigned to to launch INC Radio International. Um, he did the preaching portion of the International Evangelical Mission on air and online.
oh man. Well, and you mentioned YouTube, so we're going to move really quick, because I wanted to show you just a snapshot of if anyone's looking for, you mentioned it being visual. It's this transition from being sort of this traditional terrestrial radio to now this visual radio. And so as you could see here, these are all of the different satellites that we have across the globe. And I bring this up for a specific reason, because can you tell us when we very first launched, how many satellites were there in that first year?
When we first launched INCRadio International, or INCRadio outside the Philippines, there was only 4 satellites at that time. The first one that launched was South Korea, and then the
I hope
second.
I put that on the right place on the map, by the way, because I had a hard time finding Korea. So
Uh, Actually, it should be a little bit
geography is not my talent. So
Speaking of geography, just a side note, there was an episode that Brother Robert mentioned that Canada was an island. Anyway,
no,
let's
yeah,
not bring it up.
I actually thought Canada was a continent. It was during a year-end special that still lives on YouTube someplace if you want to watch it. And I embarrassed, and in fact, it was so embarrassing. My daughter happened to slip a note under the door here as I was broadcasting, and on the note it says, "Canada is not a continent; it's a country." So that's yeah.
So anyway, well, close enough. South Korea, then Australia, then Italy, of course, the shoe shape. Anyway, and then Hawaii.
That one right.
Yeah, you got that one right. So Hawaii, then yeah. Since Hawaii was in a country, so that's why it was transitioned to international. So that way, it's across the globe. So they were the first 4 satellites.
So now, 10 years later, let's fast forward and see what happens. This is INCRadio International. I mean, okay,
Right.
is there an icon for mind blown? 'Cause that's what. Okay, maybe this is the closest one.
That
Tell us a little bit about this growth. I mean, to go from 4 to, I mean, in traditional broadcasting, being able to open up a satellite takes a lot of time. Takes years in some cases, and for INCRadio International to exponentially sort of explode, I guess is the best word that I can use, into this many. I mean, what did it take, or what was that first year of growth like?
And it's still mind blowing. The only explanation that we can give is basically, it's everything that's with the help of God. That we're able to put together something like this. The guidance of our Almighty God that He allowed this to happen, and the unity of the brethren around the world, and INCRadio served as a window to all around the world, to all the brethren. Now that we were able to collaborate with the INCRadio family around the world, and also the funny thing is that it's not just a satellite. The list that you see there, of course, it's different districts around the world, but when you go, since it's a one big happy family, whenever we visit any of those countries, cities, or anything, and we see an INCRadio family. I mean, yeah, INC family. Yeah, we once we talk and things like that, there's some things that we can relate to, but being part of the INCRadio family goes beyond that, because we're able to, we know each other.
Yeah, your family for life, literally. That's the
exactly. When I went to Europe, I have not met any of the crew there in person, but everyone knew each other. And it's the same thing when I went to South Korea, and of course other states here in the United States. But yeah, from 4 satellites to now 41, and that doesn't include the satellites in the Philippines. There's still 16 more satellites in the Philippines. So that's about 57 total. But yes, outside the Philippines, there's 41, and it just kept growing. It just kept growing that that they wanted to be part of the INCRadio family, and they want to highlight and broadcast the different things that's happening within their district, within their region.
That's one thing that I love about INC Radio is that it highlights specific to that area. And like you said, Brother Manley, it's a family. We're able to connect. And even if you are not part of, the production crew, right, in INC Radio, when you see, one of your fellow hosts or even producers, let's say, for example, like you said, you're traveling in Europe, you're traveling to Asia, and you see them, you're like, I remember that episode. I watched that travel episode and I went to those places that you recommended to eat or those things. It really does bring you together. And there's that, we're connected with our values. Things like that are just so incredible. They bring us together, and it's really such a beautiful, and it's a fun thing too, because outside, like while you're playing with your family, you can do all these things, and it's just such a nice way to see what's going on in the other parts of the world.
Right. And you know, in one of our, I have to jump in the chat really quick because our district minister here, Brother Lowell Newcomb, who's a big supporter of INC Radio, he put in the chat here that they enjoy the programs from other INC Radio satellites primarily because we get to see what life is like and what our brethren are doing in other states and countries. And I think that exemplifies everything both you and Brother Manley just mentioned, that because you guys jumped ahead and answered my question before I got to ask it, because I was going to ask Brother Manley. He said, well, why have so many satellites instead of just having, like, with other programs, they usually will just have like one studio, and that one studio just happens to broadcast all over the world. But, the approach here was you chose to have specific satellites, numerous satellites. I mean, 23 just here in the Americas and in Canada and South America alone. Why have so many different ones rather than just having one? And I think you just answered that. So
yeah, and to answer that again, like what Sister Joy said, it's different in each region. It's different. Texas is not the same thing as in San Francisco, Canada, and mountain states, and even in Europe. If you go to Northern Europe, it's different than what's happening in Western Europe and then Central Europe, and same thing in Asia. So we do need to highlight the different things that's happening around the world, and it also shows how far the church have gone. That it's global. It's in over 100. I lost track of how many countries it is in. So, and this is just 41 outside the Philippines of the different satellites, and we still want to highlight other places around the world, and there's still brethren that wants to do that, and they're able to do that within the closest satellites that they're in, and
And this is all just within 10 years. I mean, that
right, that we have to put that into perspective, right? Because this wasn't like 50 years in the making to go from 4 to this. This was over a 10-year period, which shows that there's a lot of organization involved.
Tremendous amount.
So in doing this, Manley, what was your, I guess, one of the biggest challenges in establishing so many of these studios outside of the Philippines?
The challenge, the first challenge was actually the time difference. Trying to.
That's why you have no sleep, right? You get zero sleep for you.
That and the mixer. Did you ever get the mixer thing?
Yes, the mixer thing. And 10 years later, I think I have about. I went through about more than 10 mixers to try out which one would actually work best for our not just our studio, but for remote broadcast and things like that. Because there's so many things. It's not just in the studio that we broadcast. There's a lot of things that we do that makes INC Radio fun, and that's why there's brethren that loves to collaborate with each other, especially the technical crew. They would ask us, so what did you use when you're out there, and you did this and you did that, and the INC Radio family loves to share whatever equipment that they've used. Not there's just a little bit of a friend, not just a friend, not a friendly competition, but a brotherly love competition of who has the best equipment out in the field.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
because you can grow.
I can personally tell you that sometimes the friendliness is lost because I'll get messages from other satellites with the latest tech that they're using, and I'm going like, I'll need to sell my car to buy that because they're, oh, look at my new whatever whatever, and I'm going, okay, well, I guess I'll have to mortgage my house now so I can go get that equipment. But it has been an experience, Sister Joy. I'm gonna call you out because I remember when you first started being on here and trying to get you set up, right? Do you remember those first couple of shows when you were trying to figure out how to get the laptop and the mic to work,
Oh my goodness.
and the struggle that was real in trying to do that?
It is so real. It was definitely not like while it's supposed to be like a plug-in. I mean, this is 10 years later, right? Or a little less than 10 years later. Things are supposed to be plug and play. It was not like that for this gal right here.
No, I've got to say though, now you are like a tech guru. I mean, you're on here with your different mics and your cameras and going remote when you need to. So it shows you INC Radio does more than just bring quality broadcasting. It helps to elevate our technical expertise as well, right? So that's the well, and Kamali talked about, the fun and the topics, and I want to move on because I definitely want to get in because, as you know, if you've ever watched INC Radio Florida, we have the fastest 30 minutes on radio. So I want to be sure that we have some time to talk about what are some of the things about INC Radio that make it special, right? And not certainly just here in Florida, but all over the world. And I think it's because of the subject matter and the topics and the variety that's available. So I'm going to give you guys a little peek, okay? Since you decided to join us today on INC Radio Florida, you're going to get a little snapshot
Look at this.
into
Unveiled.
what goes on behind the scenes, right? So we've got this list. So this is just this year alone, the topics that we've covered. And as you can see, we have covered everything from technology to lifestyle to travel. Personally, our favorite topic, of course, is to Joy, is what? Food.
I was going to say,
Food.
our love is food.
And
Food is
and
number
and
one.
and of course, we've had our series of things and lessons learned, right? So in INC Radio International, Brother Manley, aside from just the show that talks about the different activities in the church and maybe, even when we've had our on-air and online evangelical missions, a lot of different programs have sort of evolved or spun off from there too. I know Little Lambs, right, for the youth is one of them. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the other programs that evolved out of INC Radio International?
There's one of the projects of the church administration said that now we have to fill in the time slots when we first launch, and to fill that time slots, of course, we do need programs. So from the satellites, brethren, their creativity came out. Those that love to broadcast, that they found out that they love to broadcast, we were able to come out with different programs. Little Lambs. Back then, we also have INC for Good Health. We also had Honeycomb, Let's Talk Family Matters. The used to be WOW, or Women of Wisdom, transitioned to WOW with Bob. Now the level, what was that program? Level U, Kadiwa Life, Binhi Faith in Action. They now transition to Chatline.
I was going to ask you about Chatline because I know I see Sister Tony Rose is on that, and it seems like a really youth focused program. Is that its intent, Brother Manley?
Yes, that is the intent of it. Not just youth focus, but the tagline is conversation that matters. So it's one of those conversation that matters that we love to talk about or to discuss. That the focus of it is those questions that that makes you just want to talk about it. So past episode, it was about a wake up call. The previous episode was about things I didn't like growing up that my parents would tell me that I find very valuable now, something like that.
Oh wow! Oh
That's a
man,
good topic
that's like a
that could keep
3-hour show,
going. Yes.
right?
Yes,
That's a 3-hour show. All the stuff you learned as a child.
yes.
Oh,
So
goodness.
as a child, of course, we didn't like to hear it, but growing up, we're very thankful that our parents had the patience to um, teach us these things. So those are the kind of topics that we
And that's
and
just
of course,
one. That's
yes,
just one.
that's just one.
Right, right.
That's just
And
one.
at the end of the program, of course, we do share the different things that we learned during worship service lessons that we incorporate from the topic. So those are the kind of things that we discuss in chat line. Yeah, it's every 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific Daylight Time. Um, I should
So
say
it's
Pacific
12.
Daylight. It's 9 a.m. West Coast time,
So
12.
it's 12 noon here on the East Coast,
Yes, regardless whether it's Pacific or Standard.
or whether it's daylight savings or standard, right?
Yeah.
Great.
So,
Well, and I put the list on here specifically because we want to go out and reach out to our audience, and please in the chat let us know what topics you'd like to hear. Remember, we put this programming on obviously because we want to be able to engage with our audience, come up with and cultivate topics that we think are going to be useful and helpful, of course, and promote the values that we have here as members of the Church of Christ. But more importantly, that we want them to be informative and beneficial. So, as you could see, we've covered a wide, vast array of topics. We also have a few topics that are coming up that we've just given you a sneak peek of. We call that a teaser in this business, right? To hopefully get you guys to join, but we're going to be coming up with a couple of programs that I think are going to be of great interest. We're going to be talking about some of the recovery efforts from the storm. Here in the District of Florida, we held a Care for Humanity a week ago. I broadcasted live when we were there, and it was just absolutely devastating to see all of the damage and the chaos that came as a result of Hurricane Milton. And there were lots of stories of people who not only, of course, survived and got through the storm, but more importantly, the recovery efforts and highlighting what it is that the Church of Christ is doing through our Care for Humanity projects continuously to help in that recovery effort. But then I think the big one that everybody likes to join, they always like to see the youth and the what did Brother Jim used to call it? The more
Battle of the generations.
yeah, no, he had a word for us. Seasoned. We're better seasoned.
Okay.
I was gonna say salty, but that probably is not a good description of us. But the youth and the
That
more
just demonstrated this season.
so we're having an upcoming Battle of the Generations episode where we're going to be kind of comparing and seeing, which generation actually does know the most. So we can't wait for everyone to be able to join there because, again, we love bringing programs that are going to be of interest and entertainment and most importantly beneficial to everybody. Brother Manley, again, we're the fastest 30 minutes on radio, so we apologize if we could give you more time to share with us about your experience. You've been there from the beginning with INC Radio, and before we go off air, can you just tell us, like, this time that you've spent with INC Radio, what has it done for you personally in terms of your you just how has it benefited you individually?
there's I could go on and on and on, and we only have about a minute left. But the one thing that I could probably describe is this that it gave me the opportunity to be blessed and humbled with the church administration allowing me to be part of this special project. I didn't expect that it was going to turn out like this. That I was able to meet a lot of brethren all over the world, and I could go on and on and on. But the main thing is that it also gave me an opportunity to meet new brethren around the world that that were able to share their experiences and also to allow the value of the Church of Christ to be broadcast even more around the world.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, and it's true for all of us. I still remember, I was sharing with Sister Joy. It was 7 years ago during INC Life here in Miami that Sister Jean Jimeno invited me to be a guest on the show to simply fill in some blank space, some blank time that was there. And apparently for the last 7 years, I've still been filling in blank space and blank time. So I am your 7-year fill in the blank space guy. And INC Radio obviously has done tremendous things, just like what you said, Brother Manley. It's changed my
One of
life.
the common denominators I love hearing is that we all have this intent, to help, with that growth and, provide more, value, because that's exactly what we are. So it's beautiful. And it's just so humbling, definitely humbling.
And just like our title, we went from humble beginnings to just this absolute global reach. And we are looking forward to many, many more years and constant growth of INC Radio International all around the globe. But, fastest 30 minutes on radio. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, Brother Manley, for joining us. We are privileged that you were able to be here with us since you were there from the beginning, all the way on the West Coast. And of course, and Sister Joy there in Orlando. This is Brother Robert Tapalas here in Tampa. Please stay tuned, because coming up next is INC Radio South Central States with Brother Nate and Sister Arnie. Another great program they've got coming up. So please stay tuned. We'll see you next week on INC Radio Florida.
This is INC Radio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.